So I just got off of a coaching call with somebody, one of my students, the members of the art community, and we're doing some exploring on some borrowing and lending, some different things that you can do to earn some yield. And I came across a good opportunity that I wanted to talk to people about. Of course, if you're new to the channel or if you're new to crypto, this is going to be way over your head. And remember, there's going to be more instructional things, more groundwork stuff that I'm going to release too over the coming months. I'm going to be explaining how a lot of this stuff works structurally, but this is just a good opportunity I wanted to get out there. So, just a little bit of a background. Whenever we talk about DeFi or decentralized finance, you can think of it as like a parallel rail of finance that operates very similar to how like traditional finance does, but it takes the power from the centralized agencies, the brokerages, the banks, and it puts it back into our hands. Okay, so what that looks like is this. Let's figure, you're a stock trader. You want to buy a stock. If you go to your brokerage, let's say Charles Schwab or whoever you use, you would give them your USD, your dollars, and they would give you whatever stock you want to buy. Let's say Apple, and then they take a trading fee to facilitate that trade. Okay, so that's all the power remains with the people that hold the assets. So they collect the fees. You're kind of they're the custodian of your account. These big things that make a big difference here. So whenever we're dealing with DeFi and we're looking at something like borrowing and lending, for example, or actually, I guess I'll keep it to the liquidity pool stuff. So you can do the same thing in DeFi where you're providing your two assets. So where the bank or the brokerage is providing both the USDC or the USD and the Apple stock. You can do the same thing with crypto. So you can provide your, let's say, Ethereum and USDC or whatever tokens you want to use. So that way, whenever people facilitate trades there, they do pay the same types of fees, but those fees get distributed back to the people that are providing the liquidity. So if you have your tokens in a pool and people are trading with your tokens, you are the one that's collecting the fees. Excuse me. The same thing works in like borrowing and lending. In traditional finance, you have to go to a bank, you have to give some dude in a suit your whole financial history, and then some third party is responsible for assessing whether you are healthy enough to take a loan. So in this case, in DeFi, there is no such procedure. There's no red tape to that. The only real difference is, loans in DeFi have to be over collateralized. So what that means is you are loaning out or you are supplying more than what you're borrowing. Okay. This is all done by smart contracts and whatever else. And again, I'll get through, some of the infrastructure to how this all works in a later video, but this is just to talk about an opportunity. So that being said, you have to provide more than you're borrowing. And then at some point, if your loan becomes too risky or the collateral that you have drops, they might take part of your position to make that loan healthy. So that being said, let's take a look at this. This is Kamino. This is a borrowing and lending protocol that is on the Solana network. And this is where I do a lot of my borrowing and lending at. Like whenever I get paid, I just buy a bunch of Solana, I loan it out. So I'll take a look at that position here. So I'll buy some Solana, loan it out for this 4.36%. And these rates change based on supply and demand. It's not always the same, but let's just take, for example, here, I'm lending out 8,400 or 8,350 for 4.36%, and I'm borrowing 3,800 at 5%. Okay, so still net positive in the loan because I'm earning just slightly less, but I have more capital that I'm earning on than what I'm paying in the loan for. So that kind of just to give you an idea of how this works. So you can see here, like, my collateral can drop by or whatever. I can borrow an additional whatever else 2.8K before my loan becomes too risky, and then it would get liquidated if my collateral drops, about 4,000 from here. So right now, like my collateral is worth, let's say about 9,250, 9,200, something like that. And my debt obviously is 3.8K. So if my collateral, or if Solana or Marinade Soul drops by 40%, then I'm going to be in a little bit of trouble. But that being said, that's not the point here. That's just kind of the mechanics of how it works. And again, I'll get into a deep dive in a later show, but I just want to show you what I found today. So when we're looking at Kamino here, you can see that there's several different what's called markets. There's 26 markets. So prime market, main market, JLP market, and kind of understanding how this works. I'm going to mute this. This is out of control. Okay. So whenever you're looking at these different markets, what's important to consider is, let's say since I'm supplying my Solana in this main market, first of all, you cannot borrow the same asset that you're supplying, and you can only borrow the assets that are within the same market. Okay. So like if you're doing this for for me, it's more like a logistical thing. Like I like having the ability to buy an asset that's going to ideally appreciate over time, take a loan out against it to live on, and that way you're not just like taking your money and buying or like using it to fund your life. You're actually buying an asset that will add value to your portfolio, and then using equity against it to do the living off of. So the cool thing about that is this gives you an opportunity for some arbitrage. Okay, so what I mean by that is this. Let's take a look at this. This is what I found today. This Athena market. So Athena is a stablecoin type of market. That Athena itself, they have a liquid staked like a USDC that earns additional yield. It's a pretty interesting ecosystem, whatever. But what I'm looking at is this. So if I come down here and I provide my USDE, this is a stable coin. This is always a dollar. Given some catastrophic event that would cause it to be depegged, but a lot of these the valuable or the good stable coins, they'll have like a proof of reserve, or they'll have some type of mechanism where the depegging is less of a structural risk. So in this case, like we're looking at USDE, I can supply that for 17.9%. So that's earning almost 18% on stable coins, which is awesome. So it's like having your dollars in a bank, but instead of earning 0.5% in your savings account, if you're lucky, you're earning 18%. Okay, so check this out. You can then turn around and borrow PYUSD for 2%, okay, which is another stablecoin. This is PayPal's. PayPal has their own stablecoin. That's what this is. You can borrow that for 2%. And then you're pocketing, I guess I'm getting ahead of myself. So what I've done here is, and I've just done it with a little amount, just as an example to show, my student I was working with. But I deposited, let's see if I can go see some details in here. We'll go to my portfolio, transaction history. Okay, this is what we're looking for, transaction history. Whenever it loads. Okay, there we go, cool. So I deposited 150, actually, I guess I should go back a little bit. I borrowed 153 more dollars from my main market, where I'm supplying all my Solana. I borrowed $154 from it, and I put that, swapped it into USDE. Yeah, USDE here, and I deposited into this Athena market. So I'm now earning, that 18% on this 153 bucks. I'm paying for something, 4.99% for the loan, but I'm earning with that same money 18%. Okay. Then I borrowed against that $90 against this. Okay. And the cool thing about this is, in my main borrowing position, Solana can go up and down, it can fluctuate, and it can, cause that liquidation. With this, it's two stable coins. So barring some catastrophic event where these would become unpegged, they're going to remain at the same ratio. It's a lot safer of a loan to say than, borrowing USDC against Solana. So that being said, obviously I'm pocketing the difference here. Then I borrowed $90 against it, converted that into more USDE, and then redeposited that. So I'm paying a 2% interest rate to borrow this PYUSD, swapped it into an asset that I'm earning 18% on. Okay, so you can kind of see some of these arbitrage opportunities that are available between these different networks. And actually, I guess I should say between the different markets that are all within this same app. So, again, this is just a brief little rundown of kind of like this opportunity specifically, but there's no shortage of those kind of opportunities whenever you're looking at this place. There's 26 different markets. There's going to be some type of arbitrage, for the lack of a better word, between some of the rates that are offered for borrowing on one market and lending in another. So uh, and again, if you're new here or if you're not very in tune with crypto and DeFi, this is going to sound like nonsense, but this is something you can kind of look to as like a what is possible in crypto, what is possible in DeFi. So, that being said, I guess I'll wrap it up for now. But, if you have any questions about this stuff, feel free to reach out to me uh, in the comments below or whatever. I'd be more than happy to, do some more content that, the people are asking for. So let me know if you have any questions. If this is something that seems interesting or something you want to learn about. And I guess I'll see you on the next one. Peace.